Well, good day, Michael here. I replaced this knife because I gave it away and it's quite cheap to buy. And it's a Kershaw Camp 5, a 1083 in D2. And it's only a little bit over $20, which is incredibly cheap for what it is. And this is from AliExpress. And I've bought a Kershaw fixed blade in Australia, full retail price for around $100. This one retail price in Australia is $100. And if this was a full retail, it would have a little symbol down here, but it doesn't. So it's an AliExpress one. But this still performs exactly the same as the D2 from Australia. And I can't see any difference in the steel performance. So you can call it what you like, but that's true. And this knife, a lot of people complain about the handle. I'm not going to do a review, but a lot of people complain about this knife, but really for skinning or cutting meat and stuff, it's a good blade. And it comes in a reasonable sheath, except that will have to be glued down because the retention, the way that's just popped open, is not good. It slides out. So I really have to think about doing something with that, gluing it down so it retains properly in the sheath, and it probably, no, it doesn't rattle. But that is an issue, it's too loose. Other than that, it's a workable sheath and it does the job quite well. But we're not here to review the knife. What I am going to do today is to test this knife on a 800 grit, which it currently is at on its second sharpening. So there's still a bit of room for improvement just in the weakened steel, the burnt steel from the factory edge. Now, people harp on about the factory edge, but honestly, most of the time it's a burnt edge. It's never going to, even though it might be sharp, it's never going to perform like it will once you get rid of that burnt edge and you get down to the true and proper steel. You can take that to the bank on that one. So this particular knife I'm going to test on 800 grit. Then I'm going to redo the grit to 3000 and do a cut test on that. People have done these tests before and proven that the lower grit cutting edge performs better because it's got more bite into the rope. And the highly polished edge tend to lose their edge. They might be sharper at the start, but they lose their edge fairly quickly. My theory on this is that having the bite gets you through a lot of those cuts a lot better because there's a micro grain structure on the edge that helps saw, especially when you're doing a saw cut like this, helps with those saw cuts and gives you a better performance. And let's really think, a lot of your cuts are going to be slicing across or sawing to get through something. So I'm going to put that to the test, and I don't want to ramble too much, but when you do a low grit edge, it becomes a lot harder to remove that burr, and you have to be careful. A lot of the edges fail because on the lower grit people aren't correctly removing the burr, and all they're doing is straightening the burr and sharpening it. So it will still cut paper if it's got a burr that's been sharpened and straightened. It will cut paper. No worries. So this paper is a bit moist. Even though it's been sitting in the cupboard, it's just the general mist and stuff of so many winter mornings, and I can just feel the moisture, so it's never going to be a real good cut test on this, but hopefully it'll be good enough today. So you can, on a lower grit, think that you've got a sharp knife, and what happens is when you start to cut, you're just pushing that burr over, and then it causes the big hiccup in the steel. So it's crucial to remove the burr with alternating strokes and lighter strokes at the end to make sure that you're getting the true apex on these knives. And I hope that I've done that. But I think when they fail the low grit, it's possibly because people haven't correctly removed the burr, and it's a lot harder to do that on lower grits. And I think when you do, you're going to get a better performing knife. That's my theory. I could be wrong. We'll put that to the test today and see how the two perform. If I'm wrong, I'm going to own it and take it all back, and I'm going to be highly polishing my edges every single time. Somehow, we shall see. I don't think I'm wrong. Righto, so we're going to put this to the test. 10 cuts. I'm assuming this will get around about 50 cuts on the edge after 2 sharpenings, and probably 60 when I get to 3 or 4, maybe 70. Here we go. Try not to do too deeper cuts into the wood, although I did a couple of deeper cuts on that go. So that's the first 10 on my dodgy paper. I might have to end up getting better paper. Alright, so there's 10. It really is moist. Just when you're doing the cut test, it just feels better. Alright, there's 20. Should write this down somewhere. I might have to go and get some better paper, I think, because that is really
Not good, I'll be right back.
Sorry about that. I had to go and, get some dry paper. So there is a... So that's a clean cut there on 20. All right, 30. Like I said, I'm expecting to get about 50 on this. The wind will stop blowing. You can see where it is wearing. Cut's nowhere near as good, but it's still cutting through. But coming to the end of its life. So I've lost my pencil again. I'll just write on this one. 30. Right, hopefully you've fast forwarded through that one to now be on 40, which we're going to be pretty close to the end, I'd say. Can't see any distinct glittering. I've got the best glasses on for it. Right. So still cutting through there relatively cleanly on 40. So maybe I was right with the 50 cuts. gotta say, Joseph, I do like your test cuts. You've got it very dialed in with that paper and the consistency in which you're testing. Is that 5? It's getting a little bit harder to cut, but there's still some measure of bite on that. This brings us to where I thought it would get on 50. And you really do have to clean that edge away, it can get stuck. Yeah, that's tearing there, I think. Yep. Well, that was all right. No, it's just had a bit of dirt. That's still slicing. Not a real smooth cut. And I think on your paper, Joseph, that would probably, yeah, see, it depends. This is where we're coming to the end of it, so we've got to be sure about it. I was doing good cuts and then all of a sudden it's not. So why is that? It should be cutting through that, and there is a very slight nick, I think. Yeah, I have to call it, I think. There's something happening on that edge. No, yeah, I can just see it. And I don't think that's dirt. Okay, definitely had it. So we'll call it on 50. There's probably a bit of an argument there on the previous. Now I'll go do the 3000 edge and we'll see how that performs. One more cut on brand new paper. We'll see that. Yeah. One will cut well, then the next one will hiccup, so I'm calling on 50 and I think 50 is going to be fair enough. All right, we'll be back soon. Back and sharpen the 3000, and I do have to say the edge is a lot sharper. It cuts through that paper better, so I do a better job of refining it on the 3000. Just not good enough on the 800 or the toothy edge. Makes a big difference, but it does seem to be sharper on the 3000, no doubt about that. But does that equate to performance in the cut? That's the big question, so we shall find out. 50 cuts on the 800. Let's not muck around anymore and get on with it. That starts off pretty well on 10 cuts. And let's do a quick, no worries there. So definitely ahead of the game on the first 10. The edge is between 17 and 20, by the way. I think that's 5. Shouldn't talk until I've done all the cuts. So that should now be 20. Let's get a new piece out. Okay. 20's good. And that's 30. Let's see, Kershaw. Definitely somewhere, but cutting through. Oof. Okay. Can definitely feel it declining, but it is on 30. So let's keep going. Righto, 40. And yes, I did cut off the fatigued edge when I sharpened that. And I can see the glinting quite a bit along that edge. Yeah. It's doing the same as the other one. I believe. Tearing. Yeah, okay. Right, so what do you make of that? That's 40. That's not a significant difference. Some people might have argued that I should have stopped the other one after 40, but I gave it 10 extra cuts. I can just see a lot of glinting and damage along that edge. Much more than the, yeah, quite a lot. There's no way that edge is going to last much longer, whereas the other one would have kept cutting, I think. It's not a significant difference. It is 10 cuts, but that could be, you know, an error on my part. What do? I'd have to keep testing that one on a different blade. I don't know. It remains for me. I've seen other people, Joseph, who's proven it, and with his tests, he's a lot more in tune with how it's cutting the paper. And my tests aren't as in tune, but I can see a lot of glittering on that edge now. I have to keep testing anyway. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.